protection? What if somebody tries to mug you? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? You're gonna want a shotgun. An automatic rifle and a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Jackbooted cops in riot gear, gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
Riot in the streets on Ultraviolence Tuesday here on UCY.tv. My name is Michael, and I am not in front of a green screen.
I'm Nicholas. It's good to be here, and we've got some interesting stories to hit right off the bat.
I think so. Keeping in the tradition and the theme of this show, Ruger is a well-known American company and really makes some excellent products. And they made some products that took off well and were well received, and other products that were generally quality, but just weren't necessarily well received by the public, but were still interesting and maybe ahead of their time. We're going to look at the Ruger Model 77, which is a bolt-action rifle that really is an American icon. It's a high-quality Mauser-action bolt-action rifle available in a multitude of calibers, and looks like Ruger's coming to the end of production on that.
Yeah, and this stretches everything from 17 HMR all the way up through 44 Magnum, with 22 long rifle, 22 Win Mag, 22 Hornet, 357 Magnum, and 44 Magnum. So and the 77 itself had every intermediate caliber there between 30-06s, 308s, 338 Win Mag at one point. There was a ton of different chamberings, and this is like almost the end of an era.
I'd agree with you on that. I was lucky enough to fire a Model 77 in 357 not too long ago, and it's got a 5-round magazine. And I'll tell you what, it was a tack driver, and a 357 Magnum bullet, weighing about 158 grains coming out of a 20-inch barrel or a 22-inch barrel that's really kind of moving. I mean, you're getting your full 1,900 feet per second out of that.
Yeah, for having the versatility and the different calibers, Ruger advertises this as a small to medium game, taking or capable of taking that level of game, but in a full size rifle. So, thereby reducing the felt recoil just with the solid stocks that they offer. The quality of the workmanship better than most things that are out there. And like I said, it's been around for a while. I know a guy, he has a Safari grade Ruger 77, and that is in 338 Win Mag. And that is a stout rifle.
And it's not only a stout rifle, it's nearly a work of art, depending on which stock you get with it. And that's not to ding or demean the polymer stocks by any means. Not that you can ding a polymer stock. But in their wood and their more presentation grade rifles, they're really nicely done, excellent quality and serious workmanship in the artistic end.
Right. And that's, one of those things that you talked right there briefly about the synthetic stocks. I think that, those of us that are into nostalgia always want to go for a nice, walnut stock or something that has a nice burl to it. But for practicality and for those of us that, maybe want to teach our kid on that same rifle, maybe we don't want that nice wood stock because we feel like garbage if something were to ding it, quite often, a lot of people end up going with the synthetic stock for the ease of care because a lot of people don't take time to polish the stock and to replenish the wood with whatever linseed oil or whatever they want to use.
Want to actually take the time to remove the barreled action from the stock and clean underneath it.
Right.
Dispel any moisture that may get underneath it, and it happens. I mean, I live in an intensely corrosive area, atmospherically. And a lot of rifles I have to take them apart and then throw a light coat of motor oil or gear oil in there.
Right, and if you're not a practiced hand at doing that, you run the risk of not getting it back in the same configuration from which you took it apart.
Some of the rifles, yeah, I mean they have a bedded stock that may be hard to reset in that position. Luckily, I'm not in the financial shape of buying rifles that are thusly affected.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those things that it's a big story, and I think it's going to affect people. Not right now in like the next 10 days, but when you see an entire line of rifles being pulled from market. That's significant to me.
And I wonder what sort of intent they've got with this. I mean, I wonder if this is just not selling well for them, or are they moving to a completely semi-auto lineup?
Well, see, this is one of the things. So Ruger sent out an email to previous customers of theirs. And on the email, the graphic on the inside of the email says that the following products are temporarily discontinued. And then it says, it's got the fear line at the bottom. It says, this may be your last chance to get one of these great rifles. So it sounds more to me like a product redesign at this point. They'll probably come out with a new model 77 at some point. But whether they're going to change the action or they're going to give it like an Accu trigger or something. I mean, there's going to be some kind of major product enhancement for them to go ahead and reissue it.
Well, it's one of the areas that the market does evolve in, and it may not necessarily be the best move for the customer.
Well, and I'll tell you what, if I could see them do anything, when you look at their Model 77 in both 357 and 44, those have already installed sights. You've got rear blade sight and front sight, but your 17s and 22s don't have sights, iron sights. If they want to do some product enhancement, throw on some damn iron sights.
That's you're preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah.
I've got a problem with rifles that come naked like that. That's just an opportunity to spend $150.
Right. So, in addition to that, we've got I wouldn't necessarily call this a recall, but I would say that this is a performance bulletin and warning. Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 rifles have been banned at Appleseed events due to out-of-battery firing and runaway guns. Very interesting to me because I own one of these bad boys, and I know that from working on a 50 cal, you don't want to have a runaway gun.
No, and it's not as kind of quite as cool as it sounds. Where you think, "Ooh, free full auto." No, you get problems like the bolt not being completely forward and locked when it discharges. You have head spacing problems. You can end up with all sorts of pressure issues, and it can be severely detrimental to your health, not to mention the rifle.
It could be a significantly bad day. So
This gets into something that's kind of interesting with some of these 22 rifles, and I've read this report on the Appleseed, and we should actually talk about what Appleseed is here in a second. But I've read the report, and it doesn't really necessarily say that it's the rifle's fault, but it may have a lot to do with the ammunition, and I find that to be kind of interesting because I've had a few of these new modern semi-automatic clones, so to speak, of what we would consider to be intermediate, quote unquote, assault rifles and machine pistols, and pretty much the common line between all of these is you have to use a quality ammunition, which almost negates the fun and the value of buying such a rifle. It really prefers high velocity stuff, and high velocity, copper jacketed stuff usually ends up being quite a bit more expensive than the Remington Thunderbolt.
Right, and that's what in this report, the Remington Thunderbolt ammo was what was being used when the out of battery firing was experienced. One of the things that I think for any of these semi-automatic type 22 caliber rifles, it's important to kind of delineate between the round nosed soft point ammo, which you would get like in the CCI AR Tactical, versus the hollow point 22s, which are common throughout almost every manufacturer. So every time I hear from somebody, they almost always say that if they have a semi-auto 22, whether it's a 1022 or whether it's M&P 1522 or Marlin or something like that, they always say that they prefer the round nose soft point ammo over the hollow point stuff. Do you find that to be the case?
I would say that I more find people prefer a plated ammo, whether it's a point or it's got any sort of there's a couple of bullets out there that even have like a ballistic tip in 22 long rifle. I think it's less a matter of the bullet shape and any sort of accoutrement to that shape versus the actual material, like a lead bullet. And if we go back to, we'll just use the Remington Thunderbolt as an example. That's a bulk box bullet usually. Usually comes in a box of 333 or 525 or something like that. Sometimes you can get two bricks of it together. Back in the old days, you get two bricks of it together for like $30 on a special package deal. It's not necessarily the highest quality ammo. It is reliable to a point, 97% of it. But you have to realize you're buying something that's bulk made at quite a significant discount over the high velocity stuff. It's basically it's a standard pistol velocity, like 1070 feet per second or something like that. And the bullets are disturbing for people who've never used it before because the bullet seems to be very loose in the case, and it's quite easy to pull one of the bullets off of the case, and it's actually kind of a good learning tool. You can see how it is, but it's not necessarily an indicator of what these newer quote unquote high performance machines require.
Well, and we've talked about the 1522 in the past, and I've remarked on how concerning it is to me that number one, it's a polymer frame rifle. So with the exception of the barrel and some parts of the bolt carrier group, which on a 1522 are kind of interesting, because this is the same profile and design style of the AR-15, but when you actually disconnect the upper receiver from the lower receiver and you remove the bolt carrier group, you're seeing that it's got some like guide rod springs and guide rods that they're plastic on the inside. So in addition to the rail system being plastic and the lower receiver being polymer, it's interesting to me that when you think about a 1022, you basically got a miniaturized version of a regular Ruger. But when you have the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522, you have something that's polymer that costs twice as much as a regular 1022.
I would agree with you on that, and I think that uh, there's enough time invested in the Ruger 1022 to perfect its design. And I mean, the design is really, really simple. Inside the receiver, there's a bolt, and the bolt rides on rods, few springs, and recoil action. It comes back and it hits a buffer and it slams back into place. And it's a time tested design. It's pretty forgiving. Usually, I've found that Ruger 1022s will like one, or will actually dislike one type of bullet in each rifle, and it's not the same from rifle to rifle. One of the issues in Ruger 1022s is the use of CCI stingers. Some people claim that they cannot feed CCI stingers in there, and there might be some school of thought behind that, being that a CCI stinger case is like an eighth of an inch longer than a standard 22 long rifle case. But I mean, retaining the same overall length, with the bullet and all that. Some people say that that's not what their rifle likes. Some people say exactly what Appleseed people are saying, that their rifle does not like Remington.
Right.
I guess it's becoming familiar with what you've got, and knowing when you're learning that that what you've got is going to work out or not. It's better to maybe fire 100 rounds and know that this works or it doesn't work, than fire like 750 rounds that all work and you never really took note of what sort of ammo you bought that day.
Well, and that kind of speaks to the diligence that a more seasoned shooter might display versus the guy who's just the casual 22 plinkster on the range. This is something that I do, and it's because in my line of work, I need to make sure that I know what I have and that I know what it likes and I know how it performs. But I actually carry a range book with me whenever I go to the range to shoot whatever rifle I'm going to be testing out. I take note of the weapon that day, some facts like ambient temperature, just to say, hey, these are some of the atmospheric conditions. I don't get down into the weeds like barometric pressure or nothing like that. But I do make sure that I always write down exactly what load I'm using, who the manufacturer is, what the batch number, as long as it's stamped on the box. That way, in case I experience something like what you've had in the past, where you've had some ammunition that malfunction, you can go back to the manufacturer and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what I was using. This is what I was using it in, and these were the conditions, and this was the result. It teaches you to be a little bit more diligent, and you can actually start to pattern how your ammunition is performing, and or you can even, at some point, if you shoot long enough, you can start to see a decline in your performance of your barrel if you're shooting thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds.
Now let's qualify that it takes thousands and thousands and thousands, and we're talking like 10,000,
tens of thousands,
to really start grading the life of a barrel.
Right. Yeah.
Now,
unless you're a competition shooter, you are probably not going to wear out any of the barrels in any of your rifles in your lifetime.
Right. It's just expensive to do that. Let's go over what the Appleseed is real quick.
Yeah. So I went ahead and dropped a description of what the Appleseed is there in chat. Basically, what it is it's a training program that utilizes shorter distances for the ranges, usually 25 yards, that is used to simulate firing at longer distances. This is similar to what the U.S. Army does on the Alt-C target for the M4 rifles. We shoot that at 25 meter, but the target itself is in varying. The individual targets are in varying sizes to simulate distances out to 300 meters.
Now, is the Appleseed, this is a privately run events? These are not government sponsored, is that correct?
Right, because what you were looking at, if you were looking for the government sponsored events, you would be looking for the CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program. You would be looking for theirs at Camp Perry, Ohio.
and those are fairly difficult to get into, from what I understand.
Yeah, you've got to be a member of an organization that's in good standing with the CMP. The CMP has a couple of different places. You got Camp Perry, Ohio, and I think they also have the one of the arsenals in Alabama. I think it was Redstone Arsenal that they have one down there. And yeah, you're talking 2 events across the nation, whereas the Appleseed ones are far more frequently held and in a lot more locations across the country.
That's something that we were kind of looking for to see more of his participation in this. And we've got a kind of an interesting story that's been kind of like a headline of mainstream news in the last day. And I kind of, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt because it's based on polls, and I do not trust polling when it comes to firearms. I think the polls are completely skewed, and it says that now there are super owners amongst gun owners, and that the actual rate of gun ownership is not going up. It's just that the same owners are buying more firearms.
Yeah. So this is the same argument saying it's the I guess what is it, the 3% is what they're going to call them now, because they say it's 3% of gun owners hold the most number of guns in the country.
Right. And I hesitate to remind people it was 3% of the population is what actually fought the American Revolution.
Yeah, and that's 2% more than the actual population of Americans that serve in our military. So there you go.
So
gun ownership
I find this
far more common than what it's made out to be.
I believe so. I think that this is a story that could be best described as disinformation. If you get further into this story, you find out that this information was leaked from a private, I should say, a recused source to the Trace.org, which is a Bloomberg-funded anti-gun magazine. And I would take nothing that they say at face value. It's all got the Bloombergian propaganda behind it. And so I've got issues with this story, and it's just interesting that it's a gun story that gets a lot of coverage right now when we've got other things going on in this country. And we'll just go to some fairly recent events, and near and dear to some of our listeners here into this show. We've got fans in the area where this happened. Shout out to Mr. Teeter out there. But there was a stabbing at a mall in Minneapolis.
Yeah, Minnesota. So, and
this guy stabbed he stabbed 8 people, and he was stopped by an off-duty cop who happened to be like the firearms instructor and the tactical guy, and he was Johnny Tackleberry, and the guy with the knife stood no chance. But the media
that's the way I prefer it.
And I mean, really, that's what you get for disturbing the peace like that.
But I mean,
media.
I was going to say, I think that what this really does is this touches on, what we've seen in the last 3 days, whether it be the Afghan immigrant who was naturalized, became a citizen in New York, or this Somali guy who was imported into the middle of Lillywhite, Minnesota. What are we really doing? There was a report yesterday that over 800 people were granted U.S. citizenship, wrongfully or fraudulently.
Yeah, it was like 856 or something like that. They just oops.
Yeah, oops.
Sorry.
We didn't accept their we accepted their applications without requiring things like fingerprints. Well, yeah, that's kind of important. I'm telling you, you can't get a job in the federal government without a fingerprint, but we can let you into the country, no problem.
Well, and then once again, this whole thing with this guy and this stuff in New York. I don't know, man. I mean, I almost get tired of saying that, this stuff doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make sense. Once again, all right. So, number one, you've got pressure cooker bombs, which is basically is a hallmark of the CIA and Mossad when they want to like disturb shit in restrictive countries. That's what they've done. They invented that tactic. It was actually published in that I think it's called Inspire, the Al Qaeda magazine.
Yeah.
And they put this out there. And number two, the bombs were placed into metal trash cans. So in theory, what that would do, that would direct the energy of the blast straight up rather than in an outward direction, which has the killing potential. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. This is, to me, it seems like it's a setup again, because once again, I mean, it's almost like a joke we're talking about. But the FBI was on this dude's case.
The dad reported him to the FBI or to the local police and said he is a terrorist.
He's a terrorist. I mean, the dad said he's a terrorist,
and it was interesting because I watched a television interview. A couple reporters swarmed the father of this guy as he was attempting to get into a vehicle, and they asked him those salient questions, and he was just like, "Yeah, I don't even know what's going on right now. I told him he was a terrorist." And then the story comes back, that it's walked back and says, yeah, he said that, but then he changed his mind and he didn't push that issue, and that, that he was already in jail for a different thing, and the cops and the FBI weren't able to talk to him because he had retained a lawyer. Well, that just means that you got to talk to him when the lawyer's present. It doesn't mean that you abrogate your duties and responsibilities to question the guy. I mean, judging on most recent events, I guess that's part and parcel what the FBI does, because apparently they did the same thing for Hillary Clinton.
Right. I'm just really in shock by the whole thing, that people haven't come to the realization that there's something absolutely completely wrong with this, and they've not come to the realization that the media and the politicians are working hand in hand over this. Now, in the wake of this New York and Somalia thing, or Minnesota thing with the Somalian guy, you've got MSNBC's Chris Hayes, who hosts a show called All In, had made himself a tweet that says that, thank God they only used bombs and knives, that nobody used guns, or the death toll would have been greater.
Sounds like he had a shootout with the cops, or did I miss that part?
That's right. So the New York bomber had a shootout with the cops, and I believe he injured two, and he got shot. I almost feel like that's a tacit admission from the media that they're looking for the dirty laundry to air. They love it when people die. They love it when they can preach to the audience, and honestly, I think they'll do nothing. There's nothing below what they would consider doing to advance the.
I mean, don't
and right now the agenda is firearms
go to waste.
Absolutely. And turning firearms at every opportunity. You see it when Hillary's on her green screen. She will always mention that, have to close the gun show loophole. And I believe, honestly, I think she's a constitutional loophole.
Yeah, well, and judging by that party platform, that's what they want to do. And that kind of brings up an interesting thing. Dealing not only with the Second Amendment, but with dealing with her protective detail. Donald Trump, saying, hey, if she wants to remove your Second Amendment rights, why doesn't she willingly have the Secret Service disarmed that are there to protect her? To me, it's amazing how the mainstream media pounced on that as a direct threat against the life of Hillary Clinton, just like they tried to do with the other thing about, Donald Trump saying, hey, maybe the Second Amendment guys can take care of her. Everything, whether it be Christiane Amanpour saying, can't the poor woman get the flu? Are we just not at that level in our society where we can't give the poor woman a break? To everything being a threat against Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's amazing. She was photographed again attending a rally where she needed help to get up a podium, to up the stairs to get to a podium to conduct a speech.
Well, I saw the rally this morning. Earlier this morning, she had given a speech, and it was strangely enough, it looked like she was like maybe somehow in an airport looking through some windows down onto her plane, but it appeared to be like a static shot of the plane. And the reason why I would say that, there was a figure of a man in the corner, and he didn't move for the entire time that
so right this
and he was standing like right in the sun.
Yeah,
and
actually, so here's the deal. The image that I saw was supposedly from when she arrived in White Plains, New York, this afternoon, or just around lunchtime. And the tarmac, you could see it had been raining in the area, and the individual was underneath what appeared to be either the baggage area of the plane, like the baggage door, or right underneath, the engine bay. And Hillary Clinton appeared to be in front of a green screen because the gentleman did not move, and she had a slight outline around her silhouette that, you could tell that she wasn't where she was supposed to be. And, I'm not one of these guys who capitalizes on every photo that has.
You're not. Yeah, I think it's fair to say you're not like a conspiracy guy. You look at facts and you kind of like go with things that make sense and are provable. This is really kind of disturbing to see this.
Yeah, and I tend to follow what are called analytical integrity standards. I consider sources. I look for alternative analysis. And my head just started, processing the images that I saw, and immediately I'm sitting there thinking, that don't look right. I've made a career on making right, or making something look like it's right, even if it may not be. I make it look like it's right, and at least it's right until I'm out of the way, and then they can fuck it up afterwards. Something wasn't right there, and not only that, for the last couple of times that. I've seen her, being in front of, static display flags or things like that. It's kind of weird. There's some
things that are just unusual.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that one real quick, just so we're not leaving anybody in the dark. There was another rally she was supposedly at, and there was a large American flag as the backdrop, and she is standing in front of the podium, and then suddenly the video glitches, and Hillary and the podium disappear, but the flag background stayed there. And then the video glitched again, and she reappeared.
And that was in Arizona. I think it was a CBS affiliate out of Phoenix. I think it was CBS 15 out of Phoenix that had that. And so the image of the flag remained there while Hillary Clinton did the horizontal, Technicolor difficulty thing where it kind of faded in and out. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's not right.
It really, and I think more and more people every day are seeing that it's not right. And honestly, I think the things that trigger that feeling are coming in left, right, and center. And I mean, really, just the events of the past couple of days really have to make you start questioning. I think anybody who's not, stuck in fantasy football or Dancing with the Stars or something like that, obsessed by pop culture, has to start looking at these things and saying, hey, now wait, this is like the eighth or ninth, attempted terrorist act or, completed terrorist act in the United States. And the FBI always has previous contact with these guys,
Yep. He was on the radar.
Yeah, on the radar. I'm sure he was more like in the Rolodex.
Well, see, and that was one of the stories that I heard being reported on, was that this was another failure of the intelligence apparatus and the intelligence sharing apparatus, because at the time his family had been interviewed, whereas he was in prison and or in jail, and he wasn't able to be interviewed because he had retained a lawyer. They said that he basically had records that were on multiple types of databases that were inaccessible by electronic search methods. So basically, what they're saying is they had a lot of paper records, and they didn't have the people, or they didn't have the desire to fucking look the shit up.
I, you know what? I really find I find no solace in these statements that, oh, we couldn't talk to him because he had retained an attorney. This is the same, and I'm not saying that it's the same branch or the same department or anything, but it's the same overarching, the man umbrella that finds it okay to like throw grenades into babies' kids on a hunch that they're, into a baby's crib on a hunch that it's, these people are selling meth in this house. Or, we thought that blue pickup truck with two Hispanic women in it was a silver pickup truck with one large, black male in it. So we had to shoot at it 152 times. All kinds of things like that. I don't put any weight when they say, oh, we were respecting the law. That's why it went out of.
They don't respect the law any other time.
Any other fucking time. No, the only time they ever respect the law, shit goes wrong. And I after a while, you have to wonder, well, did they make it happen like that? Because I don't see that many coincidences in my own life.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's interesting to hear, these. I believe I saw an interview with the police chief from Minneapolis who was commenting on the Somali who has now assumed room temperature after the internal and external air conditioning vent was opened for him by the shooting instructor.
Right.
They're very quick to say, there is no link to international terrorism, which is exactly what was coming out of the FBI and the New Jersey
and the NYPD,
right,
and New York. There is no link to international terrorism.
right.
I find it to be a load of crap. I find that to be an absolute load of crap. That just happens to fit the flood this country with immigrant mantra.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's then I get the at the same time as I'm watching that, I get the news alert on my phone from the BBC because I'm international. I'm an international player. I get the BBC News alert that says that the ISIS folks have said that he was a soldier of Allah. So it's like, if you're only getting your news source from one part of the world, you might not be getting the real skinny. You know what I mean?
I find this. He was a soldier of Allah, ISIS. Which American convert to Islam, who son of a rabbi and a urologist, made this proclamation that he's the son of Islam. If nobody understands what I'm talking about Azam al-Amiriki, also known as Adam Coleman, who is a grandson of a JDO member, B'nai B'rith member, and a rabbi who happened to convert to Islam and is now like head of Al Qaeda in America or some shit like that. I don't know. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And they're coming for your guns, and they're going to use this bullshit for it. I mean, it truly this of all of them, Azam al-Amiriki is the biggest crock of bullshit since the Bin Laden with the big nose.
Yeah.
Or the young Bin Laden, or the Bin Laden who was wearing Rolex, or how Bin Laden got younger in videotapes. And then when he couldn't get any younger in videotapes, they went to goddamn cassette tapes, right? Not that everybody in Pakistan got a goddamn cell phone with a camera on it since like 2005 or anything.
Not only that, a video camera on it, and they play radio stations, which we still can't even do in the States.
Right. So, like, what are we... I mean, don't be stupid, people. I mean, really.
Yeah.
look at this stuff objectively.
And speaking of looking at stuff objectively, Michael, we need to hit some firearm safety.
Let's do that. All right, first rule of firearm safety is every firearm is loaded until you physically and visually ensure that it is not loaded. So go ahead and crack open the action, pull out the magazine, flip the cylinder open, look down the barrel, make sure there's nothing in there. Make sure you're not going to reload it when you close it. Rule number 2, keep the barrel pointed in a safe direction. Don't cover anything you don't wish to destroy. Rule number 3 is know what your target is and know what's beyond your target at all time. And the 4th and most important rule is keep your motor hook off the bang switch until you're ready to discharge the weapon. There are no accidental discharges. It is all negligence. So let's do the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've been talking about. I've been doing the lead up for the beginning of hunting season. Here where I live, I've got 10 days until the new season begins, and I will be up in a tree about 15 feet to 20 feet above the ground. I've been getting some regular pictures that I've been sending to you. What do you think?
I saw those pictures. I got a whole bunch of them this morning, and I'll tell you what, they look like they've plumped up quite a bit from the last couple pictures that you sent me.
Yeah,
So
the stuff
nice.
that I sent you in the early summer, they didn't look too pretty.
No, they were looking kind of skinny, and now they look like they filled out a little bit more. And tell you what, the racks look really nice.
Yeah,
So,
there you go. That's one of them. Michael just dropped that one in chat. We've got probably a good 3 to 4 good sized shooting bucks that are routinely hitting my spot. And I've had the camera out there for the better part of, I guess we started at beginning of August. So we've had it out there for the better part of 2 months. And we've seen him go from, really kind of thin-bodied deer with velvet to now starting to look like their antlers are outside of their ears. The tines are getting tall. And, those that somehow escape and elude me to make it through bow season, I will do my best to put the 8mm Mauser into them.
and I think that's a good thing. I think you'll be doing your family a great service by giving them quality food. And I kind of want to maybe stray away from our normal subject, but I want to talk about something that's just really kind of goddamn disturbed me in the last couple of weeks. I live in a small town, and there's not a lot of choice in this town. There's a gas station, an older grocery store, and a Family Dollar, discount store. Pretty much all the snacks, and I mean like everything from peanuts to beef jerky to potato chips to cookies to crackers. It all is made with genetically modified organisms, and honestly, there's nothing to just grab and go that is not made with genetically modified organisms or made in China. And that's really kind of disturbing how that's actually kind of like really hit home for me in the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if you keep an eyeball. I don't know if you shop at organic foods or anything like that. But, apples were good enough for like 10,000, 25,000 years or something. I don't think the name of profit is that powerful that we got to start inserting fish genes into apples. There's something wrong with that.
Well, see, and the interesting thing here is kind of in the same vein. We've had Monsanto Corp getting ready to engage in a merger with Bayer out of Germany. So you're going to have a pharmaceutical conglomerate giant, and that's actually starting to raise some eyebrows in Congress. I heard Harry Reid has severe deep reservations about allowing something like that to happen.
And I don't want to give Harry Reid any kind of credit. I think the only reason he's possibly scared about that is because it may make Germany into a threat against Israel again or something that. Harry Reid is not working for the United States. Let's just say that straight out. None of these people who are in Congress. are working for the United States.
Yeah.
They're not working for the citizens. Not a fucking one of them.
Well, that's it's a sad fact. We've got a lot of members of Congress who, instead of protecting our rights as citizens of this nation, seek to do nothing but restrict our own individual civil liberties and really tell us what we can and cannot do. That's not what they're elected to do, but that's what they take it upon themselves to do.
And I mean, it's as in your face as this last little stunt at the Congressional Democratic Caucus. I don't remember if it was the Black Caucus or whatever, but they had to sit in for
Gun control.
gun control. And it's just odd that they try to portray themselves as civil libertarians and people looking out for the rights of the people, but all they really do are just kind of oppress the people and try to restrict rights.
Well, and it's funny. The representative from Maryland, Elijah Cummings, he's a frequent participant in these types of displays of disobedience in Congress. But yet he's a member of Congress from Maryland, which has seen some of the worst rioting in terms of the different events of this past year. And it's funny. Maryland has some of the most restrictive gun laws when it comes to their hunting. They're a shotgun only state. They don't allow center fire rifles, and yet somehow they need to have their people be protected from guns. And the way I look at it is that's racism directed against his own kind. Because when you look
and it's the worst kind of racism, because it's the racism against the poor, the people who can't fight back.
Right, and the people who are less likely to be able to say, hey, I put in the money and the time and the effort to get certified to do this, in addition to purchasing the firearm legally.
And we see that in other states too. We see that in some of the northern tier states. We see I believe it's Minnesota and Wisconsin. They've got melt limits or melt laws, and that was designed to eliminate the quote unquote Saturday night specials, which were all usually a zinc alloy frame, and zinc melts at a lower temperature than steel. And they instituted those laws and basically made an entire class of low cost pistol unavailable to people who $20 is a lot of money.
No, definitely. And think about that $20 when you have a family that is basically existing on the taxpayer's generosity through government assistance and public assistance, and then you have 4 or 5 kids in that family with no mail, and I would say that's disproportionately high compared to the rest of the population, whether it be Hispanic or Latino or Asian or white. So who does that really hurt?
It hurts their own kind every damn time, and I mean you really have to. I think you have to look at the entitlement society as being a ticket to their own execution.
Well, I don't know. All I know is that this is the swan song of Harry Reid's congressional career. He'll be retiring because he knows he's going to be getting defeated in the next election. Yeah, he'll probably end up getting defeated by the next Bowflex exercise machine that they install in his house.
I honestly, I don't think he got beat up by an exercise machine. I think he got out of line and somebody went down.
Somebody clocked him.
I think so. I think so. I think anytime you see any of these politicians that let's take it back to John Kerry, supposedly crashing his bike and having a black eye. I don't think he crashed his bike.
Well, the funny thing about the whole thing with Harry Reid, Bowflex is a company that has infomercials on every day. I'm looking at the new Bowflex, the SUX 6000 of the Bowflex line.
With a blow.
It comes with a Blaupunkt, right? You haven't heard one bit of Harry Reid filing a negligence charge or some kind of lawsuit against the Bowflex Corporation for faulty craftsmanship or a product defect. Have you? I haven't.
Exactly, just like the reporter Michael Hastings, who is leaking some fairly ugly stuff that nefarious shit that the government was involved in. His Mercedes took off and killed him, and everybody tried to blame Mercedes. Mercedes said, "That's not us. We don't. That doesn't happen to our cars." So I think that tactic is wearing thin.
Right. Well,
I
it'll
think
be
we're in an
interesting to
information
see.
society. We're in an information society, and if your Bowflex was to snap and give you a black eye, you may be inclined to post that on your Instagram account.
Right. And it's, I don't know. You would figure a sitting member of Congress, the ranking Democrat in the Senate, people would report on that. Like, hey, Harry Reid filed suit today against the Bowflex Corporation for the injuries sustained in a product. What do they call it? What do they like to call it? A product malfunction. A product malfunction.
Yeah, product negligence, and I. But at the same time, there was no lawsuit from Michael Hastings' family against Mercedes.
Yeah.
It's lies. It's absolute lies. And honestly, I think this stuff in New York was absolute lies too.
Well,
I almost think that this thing is with the Somalian kid in Minnesota almost could be true, but things about that don't ring true. I mean, he was a security guard, and he'd been vetted, through several different agencies, and his parents said that they had no idea he was doing anything like this. Where, as we see in the New York thing, that guy said that, hey, yeah, I already told you that kid's a goddamn terrorist.
there you go. It's. I think I saw in the news today.
It's truly maddening, Nick, and I think that's what we're getting at. Why
we are 7 weeks away. 7 weeks away from electing the next president. And I will tell you, we don't like to listen to the polls because the polls are slanted, and especially if it comes from CNN. But I want to see something that was interesting. It was one of those things where it was an up week for Donald Trump by most accounts, down week for Hillary Clinton, down 2 weeks actually. But one thing that I saw that was just blatant propaganda was the MSNBC poll that came on during a show called Michaela, and said that Hillary Clinton was now up nationally 5 points, 50-45 over Trump by likely voters. And I'm just sitting here thinking, that's not what everybody else is saying.
I don't see that in my recent travels. I don't see any sort of the public propaganda that supports that. I don't see any Hillary signs. I don't see any Hillary bumper stickers. I don't see anybody wearing Hillary T-shirts. As a matter of fact, I still see Bernie signs out.
Oh, definitely. I agree. I will say the one thing in my location, I live in an overwhelmingly liberal town. It's a major university in the state. I do not see any Hillary Clinton's yard signs. 0 yard signs. I see yard signs for other Democrat that are running for elected positions, whether it be in the state Congress or the U.S. Congress. But I have not seen a Hillary, lawn sign or big placard. I do see Donald Trump signs all over. Yeah, and what does that say?
I see Trump signs quite often, and I'll just give you a kind of an aside. A couple of weeks ago, I went to San Antonio, and we stopped at a pawn shop, a friend of mine and I, and he went in. He actually was looking at a rifle, and there was a guy who was coming in, and I guess you could say he was down on his luck, and he was a Hispanic guy, and I'd say by looking at him that he wasn't a recent immigrant. I would guess that maybe his parents or maybe his grandparents were an immigrant. He wasn't first generation. He wasn't the immigrant, and he was coming in and pawning a small necklace or something, and that'll get him maybe $30 or something like that.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, this guy just said, "This is all wrong," and the economy's going down, and I'm voting for Trump. And I mean, this kid came out of nowhere out of this guy, and I found it kind of interesting that he's actually the demographic that is supposed to be completely anti-Trump, and there's not a lot of respect for Hillary. And I mean, honestly, like the last couple of days, I've seen some disgusting pandering out of her. The one that cracked me up is black girl magic is real, and I just come on, just tell them about the hot sauce again.
Yeah. So I sent you a Facebook site. I'm not a Facebook guy. I believe that there's no greater opportunity that the CIA has to learn everything about you than by giving you a platform with which you can use to brag about everything you do down to the minute. So I don't use it, but definitely want to give the bonehead shout out to Gaia's Indigo Dancing Children. or Dancing Indigo Children. If you haven't seen this Facebook page and you've got nothing to do for the next 3 hours, I seriously recommend that you give it a look.
And if at the same time, you might as well give Christians for Michelle Bachmann a look, just to keep it equal.
Oh God, this is insane. And and I'm sitting there thinking, this has to be a parody page. I mean, people can't honestly think like this.
It's totally a parody page. Yeah, there's a lot of those, and honestly, I still think the best parody page is the North Korea Twitter. The North Korea Twitter is just
but that's legit. That's actually coming from the case.
No, it is not.
Central News Agency.
Well, it links to that, but it's not. They did not send out the invisible telephone goblin tweet. That was not really from Kim Jong-il.
Oh, no, Kim Jong-il is dead.
Jong-un. That's a parody account, but I mean, I think that's just... those guys get some claps for that.
Yeah. Well, you have nothing to gain and only your identity to lose.
All right, so we are getting near the end of this here broadcast. Anything you looking for in particular in the next week? And maybe I'd like to.
Yeah, so I was able to move some money around and made some purchases this week. As you know, like I said, we've been talking about hunting season coming up. Rifle season for me does not start until the 19th of November, but I want to be ready now. So I did go online and I purchased two boxes of Privy Partisan round nose soft point hunting loads for my 8mm Mauser. That's the 196 grain, which is German military spec, and that costs $36. They were $18 a box. But the sad thing is that they will not be ready for about 5 weeks. So they're going to get here just before hunting season. And in addition to that, I did purchase a Summit climbing tree stand gun rest. So not only is my tree stand going to be used for bow season, but it will now be used for rifle season as well when I don't feel like setting up on the ground. If I know that there's a funnel or something where the deer are kind of continuing to come through, I will be up there in the tree pointing down, which is better because I'm not able to build a elevated box stand on this property yet. So I will still be able to get up and above the ground, be able to have a safe shooting lane following the 4 rules of firearm safety, and still get a good opportunity at taking a deer.
Well, that's awesome. All right, I'm looking for magazines. And anybody out there within the sound of my voice who feels like I do, you better be looking for magazines as well, because they are going to become very, very tight very soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Beat the rush. Buy them now.
Yep. Well, wow, there it goes, Michael. Hey, thanks for listening in chat. Michael, great to be with you.
Nick, it was wonderful. Everybody, thanks a lot. Stick around. UCY.TV. Jules, you're a saint. Thank you very much.